All right, good morning everyone and welcome to our Entrepreneur Ecosystem Coffee Break on this warm September 30th. Feels like July 30th out there. And thank you very much for joining us this morning for our informal panel discussion. The coffee break is in partnership with Navigate Small Business and myself, Carol Spicer. For those that don't know me, I'm the owner of Spicer Facilitation and Learning. And we've partnered to provide this opportunity for entrepreneurs to come together and network and share what's happening in their world, so in the world of business. We also are very appreciative of the support folks in our ecosystem that join us, those from agencies that help guide us and support us as entrepreneurs as well. So very grateful to have those of you there with us today. I'd like to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement. I'm coming to you from the beautiful community of Pasadena, which is on the unceded territory of the Beothuk. And I ask you to just take a moment to reflect of where you may be joining us from and the territories of those that came before us. Today is also Orange Shirt Day, which recognizes the trials and challenges for those that were in the residential school system. I scoured my closet and discovered I have absolutely nothing orange. No piece of clothing is orange, but I did find my little Labrador pin that has the orange pitcher plant. So this is the best I could do, folks. But I want those that have family members or have experienced the challenges of the residential school system. It's certainly a message that we're all learning more about and a good message to share. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Allison Rowe, who's the manager over at Navigate, to just take us through a little bit of what Navigate is about, and then we're going to jump into our panel discussion. Allison, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Most of you have joined us before. Usually what I do is a little introduction of Navigate. I'll keep it very short because I do believe everyone on here is quite familiar with our services. But for those of you who don't know, Navigate is a partnership between Grenfell Campus and College of the North Atlantic. And we help entrepreneurs from the early startup stage with the Entrepreneurship Center, both at CNA and Grenfell Campus. And then onward to prototype and product development and commercialization and implementation, so through the business incubator and the maker space. Many of you may know that right now our physical spaces are closed due to COVID-19, but we are still operating remotely and offering as many virtual events and activities as we can. And anyone who does require assistance, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email over in chat here shortly. So as I mentioned, we have the three pillars. We're the Entrepreneurship Center Makerspace Incubator, and we're hoping that they are reopened to the public sooner rather than later. But if second waves are any indication across the country right now, it may be a little longer than anticipated. We were hoping for January reopening, but I'm expecting that may be extended a little further now. But again, our virtual services are still here to help you.
If anyone has any questions for Allison about any of that,
you can feel free to email me at the email address that I just put there in the sidebar. I will mention one thing about this about the coffee break. For those of you who have been joining us up until this point, you've probably noticed that over the past several months we've been trying to be as COVID focused as possible. So we are trying to keep the topics and discussions relevant to your needs at the moment. If you have anything you'd like to know more about that you'd like us to discuss on future coffee breaks, by all means, put it in chat or send me an email, and we'd love to help. We want to respond to what your specific needs are.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. So I'm going to move into the panel discussion. So Scott, welcome and good morning. You don't need to have your camera on if you don't wish to, unless you want to become a panelist and start chatting and answering questions. There you go, perfect. So I'd like to take a moment to welcome our panelists that are with us here this morning. And today we have Sharon Evans, owner of Siva Meditation. And each of these ladies that are with us today are going to tell us a little bit more about themselves as well. We have Nancy Buckle, owner of Namaste Studios in Corner Brook, and we have Jennifer or Jenny O'Keefe, who in partnership with Chris is the owner of Rough Waters Brewing in Deer Lake. And I think I'm going to start with you, Jenny. I'm going to work my way through the valley. So I'm going to go Deer Lake, Pasadena, Corner Brook. So Jenny, for your business, Rough Waters, you're relatively new. Tell us a little bit about your business and what was your initial reaction when the pandemic struck around about March 16th? I think our province kind of shut down.
So we were very new. We only opened in December of 2019. So when we first opened, so we opened for December Christmas, so sales were pretty good. Also, you have that initial excitement of a new brewery or new business opening. So we rode that for a bit, but then January and February are just usually bad months, especially for a brewery, because everyone's done drinking and done spending money. So we're all right, made it through February. And then all of a sudden March comes. So we start doing some more events in our tap room and working towards that. And then mid-March comes and we're completely shut down. So my initial reaction or response to the pandemic was just sheer panic, basically. And yeah, it's a good thing that, me and Chris do have a really good partnership. So, so I'm kind of like the operations manager. I just kind of make everything go. And Chris is the brewer and does everything with that side of the operation. So luckily, because we have Chris here, it was still able to go, but I basically I needed time to just kind of cope with what was happening. Also, what happened initially with the pandemic, I'm not sure if I'm kind of answering another question here, but I'll try and be quick.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
We opened with distribution, which was a different business model from what other breweries have been doing. Once we started bottling everything, we decided to ship everything to the NLC because they were dying for more local craft beer options. So we were great. But then when everything shuts down, the corporate NLC locations stopped allowing people to go in, and they did a phone or internet kind of a thing. So our sales went from really great to down over 90% in the NLC corporate stores. And everyone kind of kept saying, well, everyone's drinking more during the pandemic. Yeah, but they're not shopping for craft beer. They're going grabbing a 26er or whatever. Yeah. So it was just sheer panic for me. But Chris is more task oriented, so he was able to still just kind of focus on getting beer out. And then once I was able to kind of, so I'll stop there. That was my response.
And I'd say it's probably quite a normal response. So maybe that works into Sharon, because Sharon can help ground us. So Sharon, tell us a little bit about you and what was your initial reaction to the pandemic?
Disbelief. I really never thought that it was going to be as, terrible and widespread as it was. I mean, I had company here the weekend before we shut down, and they had just gotten back from Florida, and we were heading to Florida in June, so we had a bet. And I said, oh my gosh, I said, I'm going to Florida in June. There's no question. I mean, I have divine intervention. I know these things. Not. So I lost the bet. I think no matter what word you put on it, Jennifer, I love the panic word and the, whatever we want to call it, disbelief. I think it all boiled down to fear of the unknown. The universe was pivoting us towards something unknown. And I felt that. I felt the universe depending on us to make different choices. After I lost the bet, that was. After it became real. Then I recognized this paramount responsibility. I'm a meditation instructor, so I do a lot of training. I do a lot of person-to-person with worldwide leaders in spirituality. Deepak Chopra, Sadhguru, Eckhart Tolle. A lot of people who are paramount in the mental health side of it. So comes my responsibility to accept what's happening, what the universe is presenting, as an opportunity. So after I got myself grounded, and got myself in a space which is constant. It's a constant thing, floating back and forth. The responsibility became clearer to me. And so that's pretty much the initial.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Nancy.
Hi. It worked out the way that you're progressing through, because I can kind of just take from where Sharon left off and say that, and a little bit of what Jennifer said too. Well, my business is, people would know my business as a yoga studio in Corner Brook at the Vitch Wellness Center. And when they think that, they think, okay, go to yoga classes and have a yoga membership, and that's what comprises my business. However, we do a lot of things like yoga teacher trainings, a lot of things that are that even when we're able to continue on with classes, a big part of my business is kind of unknown. Like, people don't really notice that, so, or realize that is something, how my business was impacted. When COVID happened, I had just returned from New York City actually a week before. So I was in a panic for several reasons, because I had started to worry that maybe my family and I had been exposed. We were there for 3 weeks, and I had a bit of panic with the business. But believe it or not, for whatever reason, I always do my best work when my back is against the wall and when I'm under pressure and when that panic sets in. I feel like it's 25 years of yoga practice that allows you to kind of kick into that place of, okay, this is happening. And that responsibility that Sharon was talking about. I have 15 yoga teachers. I had, 200 members at the studio. And in order for things to continue on, I had to stand up and take the reins. And I might be panicking as I'm eating my lunch and trying to figure out what to do. But then when I'm facing my members and I'm facing my staff members, I had to really show, calm and control. And that kind of that responsibility actually helped me to keep myself grounded and keep myself level. So in those first few weeks, I had a lot of fear, like so many others. I found ways to experience it and place it where it needed to be, and then other times where it was time to kick it into high gear. And at the end of the day, one of the things that I did that I found ended up being most helpful for personal and my personal experience and business is I got up 6 o'clock every morning and I started doing a guided meditation. And doing it, I just posted on my Facebook page, and I just was doing the meditations, and it was for myself, but it ended up helping other people who were also awake because of insomnia and couldn't sleep, and helping to process those few weeks. So that was really panic, just like everyone else, stress and worry, responsibility, and then action.
Okay, excellent. Yes, I think we did have a very nice progression there in sort of how each of you responded and built on each other. That responsibility piece is an interesting comment from you, because I was recently on an event around community building, and the message essentially was, it's not just municipalities that build a community, that business owners have, sort of a responsibility into that. So Jenny, I wanted to kind of throw that to you, as far as you said your distribution really changed. You're new in a smaller community. How did your interaction then with the community change? Were you able to sort of change how you reached out to that community and during this time?
Yes. A lot of things, I guess, changed because we were still, we're from the East Coast originally, so we were really not sure how, like, the town of Deer Lake were going to feel about having us here. So, yeah, once we were able to do curbside pickup, that was something that we had started doing, but it wasn't really it wasn't going super well. Like, it was great that we were able to offer that, and some people did take advantage of it, but it wasn't going super great. What ended up saving us mostly was we just kind of switched distribution channels. So we went and reached out to more like small business, like convenience stores, as well as like liquor expresses, and we're able to sell to them because, again, like speaking back to like the NLC corporate stores, their sales all plummeted, whereas the stores that you were still able to go into with like social distancing practices, they all skyrocketed. So we switched tactics like that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it leads into how you sort of connected with the community and the change. So you changed your distribution,
Yeah.
and you did curbside. So you did a different model. We could no longer go into your brewery, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, people weren't allowed in here for a while, and then they were, but also like a lot of people still weren't comfortable. So we were here to do curbside pickup, and like we still do it for people who like call us and request, because if anyone is like quarantining or anything. But yeah, it was very much, it was almost like a hassle. I hate to call it that, because like again, I'm grateful that I was still able to sell, because there's so many businesses that weren't. And we were one of the lucky breweries in a sense that we opened with a distribution channel. So we opened with bottles and with a bottler. The majority of breweries on the island don't have that. Like their main source of income is a tap room. Whereas, so we were lucky in a sense.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Nancy, you had to shift. Sorry, Allison, you have a question?
Yeah, I did want to actually ask Jenny something specific about one of their products as well. Because
yes.
the stroke of marketing genius there early on in the pandemic that probably helped, with the fact that you're a new brewery as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I do. Let me grab them. 1 second.
Cheers.
Yeah.
While Jenny's doing that, if any of the participants have a question at any time, then you can certainly type in chat. We're going to open up to the floor later as well. But if while our presenters are saying something specific, if you have a question or a comment, just throw it over in chat, and I'll moderate that as well. Okay, back to you, Jenny.
I'll try to be quick. I'm really sorry.
No,
So
okay.
one thing that we did, like we're kind of known for our most beautiful labels that we're lucky enough to work with a local artist in St. John's to help create our eye-catching labels. So one thing we did was we decided just to kind of capitalize on the pandemic was we made a pandemic beer and we put Dr. Hagee on it. So there's one. Yeah. And then there's the other one, and he's wearing a mask.
Beautiful.
So we sold. Yeah, I'm sure he has, because like even we didn't technically get permission to use it, which is why we haven't done it again, because we like don't want to push our luck. So we ended up emailing him a couple times and like called his office in I think it's in Grand Falls. I know he's in Central, and like they thought it was hilarious and great. And we reached out like we printed the labels, like it's happening. This is your last chance to like tell us not to. But we were kind of told like by him not responding, that's him responding. So that's why we haven't done it again. But yeah, it was a great beer. It was good and bad because it was a double IPA, which is very complicated, very expensive to make. And I would say 50% of the people probably just bought it for the label. So next time we do it, we're just going to put the cheapest beer we can in it. I'm glad that Billy liked the beer. It was a really good beer, but we had all these people coming in who like had never been in here before, which was great. And then we also like got quite recognized on social media, which also was great. But yeah, it was almost disappointing that you knew people were just buying it for the label, and the beer was really good.
Good exposure though.
It was really good. It was really smart. I don't know where it came from, but I'm very happy that we thought about it. And then we even did consider like doing one with the amazing woman, Dr. Fitzgerald. Yeah, and even Dwight Ball, but we just kind of didn't want to push our luck because we again like still didn't technically get permission. So that's why he just kind of lives. It's a collector's item now. So
there was a wine that came from the island, 50 Shades of Bay.
Ah, yes.
Right? So it took off on the segue from 50 Shades of Grey, so that did really well too.
That's right.
We sold out in a day, and people still come in and talk about it and look at it and ask for it. So it is. We're very lucky. Yeah. And our
And
artist,
pushing
the
this on.
spit of him, it's brilliant. Like, she's so good. Just one more time.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
excellent. And it's
So
nice
good.
too that you're able to partner with an artist in our province that is probably also struggling, you know, like
Mhm.
many. So
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to be able to keep that here. Nancy,
Well,
you did a
definitely.
real big shift, didn't you? You know, your studio obviously had to close, and as you say, there's other aspects of your business. What were some of the things that you had to change in how you interacted with your clients?
Sure, yes. So my studio is an in-person business, and within 3 days of the pandemic, I guess officially hitting here, yoga studios and fitness centers were the first to be mandatorily closed. Um, Somehow before that even happened, I had the feeling, whether they were ever going to close us down or not, I knew immediately some people were no longer going to be comfortable coming in person when this fear of the unknown was existing. So before we were closed down, I think it was within 3 days, I had us completely up and operating on an online format. The way I was able to do that is because I came back to Corner Brook 4 years ago after living away for 20 years. And when I moved here, one of the things I really wanted to do was make yoga and yoga teacher training more accessible to rural areas of Newfoundland. So for about 3 years now, I have had already been doing online yoga teacher training, and they would actually Zoom into us in person in the studio from Newfoundland, Labrador, Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick. And so that had been happening. So I already had the equipment. I had the sound and the video equipment and everything. And it was to now just take it and shift it to an online perspective. But to do that, basically what happened was the first 2 full weeks, I have 15 yoga teachers, so it was to find out who was comfortable doing this, educating them on how to do it at home, because it wasn't like they were coming into the studio. We were no longer allowed to even be in the studio, only myself. So I educated each of my yoga teachers, and then we had to onboard our 200 members. So we basically took every approach that you can think of. We communicated by creating videos, by creating emails and sending out e-blasts, by um, doing a lot of Facebook and Instagram posts with very clear 3 or 4 step processes to make it easy and simple for people to do. We fielded a lot of phone calls. I talked a lot of people through how to set up Zoom on their computer, because this was something we had been doing for 2 years with Zoom, but it was really new to a lot of people. A lot of our members would probably not have ever chosen an online format. So, and then another thing I did was I attended the Zoom classes for every single class for the first 3 weeks so that I could troubleshoot, because of course they were new users, both staff and members. And so troubleshooted. Everyone was very patient, of course, and just happy to be able to be getting their yoga practice in. And then finally, the other piece that we did immediately was start to advertise nationally and internationally, actually. So pay for advertisements on Facebook and Instagram, because now what we had to offer was something that not only local people could avail of, but they could I've lived in all over Canada and the US, so I was able to tap into different pockets, and we were actually able to get members from across Canada and the US that wouldn't otherwise have come. But the last two things that I want to say are that I really quickly I'm always aware of what's going on in my industry, and the online yoga services for the industry are very cheap. So it's very different to have an in-person $40 a month membership, which is still very affordable, and then say, well, we're going completely online. And immediately I felt like I needed to adjust my membership price to overcome any kind of discomfort that my members might feel. And I reduced our membership price, and without anyone even canceling, that decreased my income even further at a time when we already were making 25% of the income by being shut down. But I did it because I felt like I really wanted to. We talk about the sense of responsibility, and my members really feel like, to build trust with them, say, I'm not here panicking in this pandemic trying to make a buck off of everybody. I care about you, and I understand and acknowledge that so many people now are probably going through a very worried, stressful time about their own personal financial situation. So how can I come up with a compromise that didn't hurt me too much with the business, but also extended something out to my members to help them feel more comfortable, and maybe allow them to continue on without just automatically canceling and not having that one practice that they needed the most right now with regards to stress reduction, anxiety, fear, all of the things. And the results were overwhelmingly positive. Of course, we had many cancellations. Our membership reduced by about 50%. And, that was going to happen no matter what, I believe, because there's so much that was at play. But we feel like we were able to onboard, and within those first 2 weeks, it's been operating smoothly ever since.
Excellent. That's fantastic. So for you, you did have a little bit of familiarity with the virtual space, which helped make that transition a little bit easier. I really like the comment around, earlier what you said, that responsibility and that corporate responsibility. I know in dialogues that I've had, and Sharon's been in a couple meetings that I've attended as well, that we've talked about, it seems like those are the clients or the customers or the businesses that people are going to respond to, those that took the right step. And I know there's one in our circle that closed her business on March 16th, the day before St. Patrick's Day, and it was a pub, it was a bar, it was a restaurant with a bar, and I mean, it was biggest revenue, but they chose safety over revenue. And so, interesting that people are responding to that in a positive way. And I think, you're echoing that, Nancy, that I'm sure people were responding to, you're looking at them as an individual versus a money situation, right? Absolutely. Now, Sharon, I know you did some changes online as well, and you tried a couple different things with different groups as well, did you not?
I definitely did. I had to change my focus. I still wanted to be involved, and I knew that the mental health was being affected, and that's pretty much where I fit into this puzzle anyway. Mental health issues are under pressure, more pressure. They were already, mental health, suicide rates and depression, people on antidepressants and addictions, that was already at the foremost thing that pivoted me forward anyway in my decision to leave career and invest my life into meditation and teaching people meditation, finding peace within. When the pandemic started, I realized that I had more work to do. I had more sessions. I had more opportunities to do sessions with great leaders in industry. One of the sessions that I did maybe 4 weeks ago, I did an inner engineering course, 7 classes, and it's with Sadhguru, and it was actually complimentary. I guess I applied. He offered this for people who healthcare professionals. You applied for the course, and he actually covered the cost. One session, one total class was on responsibility. And he broke down that word. Our ability to respond is limitless. There is no place that our ability to respond doesn't exist. And I had to really soak that up. And yes, I gave classes in the beginning and sessions in the beginning. I jumped right into the Zoom sessions, purchased the year because I knew that clients were suffering. And I didn't recognize it was because of my response ability. I just answered because I knew they were there and they were suffering. So I offered sessions to the youth because I knew they were home with their moms and dads in the living rooms, driving mom and dad probably crazy, who were already crazy enough. And I offered sessions complimentary to the youth, 7 to 11-year-olds, I think, or 6 to 11-year-olds. and I offered sessions to my existing clients, and I did put it out there that they were going to be complimentary. I was going to move through this pandemic, and you could send me a donation if you wanted, but it wasn't prereq. You didn't need to. But I had an overwhelming amount of donations.
Wow.
I was pleasantly surprised. However, after the summer started and we started changing our levels. People started getting out more, and then spaces opened up for other, like I guess Nancy, your spaces opened up for sessions, and Jennifer, your business opened up as well in the summer, got a little bit different. And I went to the beach. I took to the beach and did beach meditations and stuff, which was wonderful as well. But what I'm finding now, the marketing technique, strategy that I have been using for my business for the past, I'm into my 6th year, it's not working. So I'm at a different space right now. I'm into a different unknown, and it's another learning curve this pandemic has given me. People want to get back in touch. They want the one-on-one too. That's what I'm finding. People who are contacting me for meditation sessions are wanting me in their presence to teach them, and that's what they're used to, sitting down in my presence. And I got to say, I miss that as well. I love that energy, and I love that we're connecting here as well on Zoom, and I can sense you're there and your energy and your presence. But the one-on-one for meditation, that group, that group energy that gives us, people want that. So that's the learning curve, and that's the marketing strategy that I'm being faced with right now. It's a real different one for me. And the other thing for me to have to realize, and I'm sure we're all going to be faced with this, is we have to reach out. We have to reach out to our community. And that's why what you're doing, Carol, you and Alison, is critical to the success of not only our businesses, but anybody that's signing on and anybody that's going to view this in the future. We were always into an unknown. We don't have the answers to anything. We just think we do. So the unknown with COVID is something that's ever present within our realm. And moving forward, I'm still learning.
Thank you, Sharon, for the kind words there about our offerings. Alice and I were chatting this morning and said, this started as a pilot. January, February, March, we scheduled 3 sessions. We had a commitment. I had a contract with Navigate, and we said, yeah, let's do this as a pilot. We'll do virtual, see what happens. And then all of a sudden it was, okay, this is working. And you know what? Now this is really the only avenue we have. And we're very grateful to, folks that have embraced it and have given us the positive feedback and are willing to join each month as we try to offer this. So it really is my goal as building, I call this a community of practice, this ecosystem, and it's really what you folks make it to be. I'm just here to help guide you through. I'm not quite that surfer though in the picture of being able to navigate those waves, but that's what it's about. So interesting, Sharon, you talked about marketing. Jenny, for your business, and I'm going to kind of tap into you a little bit because I know you also have the social media with Catalyst. So, your business that you had previously, and I'm sure that's kind of gone a little bit by the wayside as you're focusing on your efforts on rough waters. But from a marketing perspective, what changed for you, or what would you recommend to people as we market in these strange times?
What changed for me, I guess marketing wise, is I always made it look as safe as possible. So I tried to make it a mission to have we always wear masks in here, and we have from the start, prior to the mandate. So whenever I would put something online, I always have someone's face, but have someone with their mask on in it. So that way people feel safer coming out. My marketing changed just because it just kind of fell to the wayside for us during the summer because it was just in survival mode, which is not what I want to happen. And then I did, I guess, with our pandemic, our pandemic beer, I tried to capitalize on the pandemic in that sense.
Hmm.
But it's also important. Like the number one thing for us for social media in particular was that you don't want to be selling 100% of the time. Like, and I don't think anyone here necessarily does that. Like, I know that people are like, oh, like, do self-care today, have a great day. Whereas we're always trying to either like promote like another local market or something like that, a great beer that we just tried, or yeah, just kind of that stuff. So we usually say like 30% of the time you should be selling something, 30% you should be saying like, oh, and like we introduced our like new staff. Here's our staff today, and yeah.
Okay, excellent.
I love that. I love
I
that.
like that. Yeah, I think that's really good. Nancy, for yourself, how did marketing change?
Um, it's interesting. My entire industry has changed, and it will be forever changed. For me, it's always been about how can I balance my desire to be a local community physical location business with the need to also be protected in some way if that physical location is no longer able to to run. So I have this like global thinking always with my marketing strategy and with like a local heart. So what I came to a point this summer. So Sharon had said like we had opened our doors and whatnot, but actually we were allowed to open our doors as of the beginning of July. And I made a decision to not open until September 8th. And that might sound crazy to people who are like, well, your business was mandatorily closed. Don't you need to get your business open again? But I looked at it, and summer is the quietest time for an in-person studio yoga in Newfoundland. And also, everybody had just been cooped up in the house. And I said, people want to get out, including myself. I dedicated my summer to coming up with a strategy for September. So in doing that, what I did was I found an organization to work with to create a custom app that will be available in the App Store. So basically, when we open in September, people are able to come in and do classes. I installed equipment that allows us to live stream those classes and purchased equipment that will allow us to do professional video of pre-recorded content so that now people who want to come into the space can be there. People who want to continue doing live stream at home can be there. And then this app was my main marketing strategy going forward, because the app is available in the App Store as a yoga on demand app. And taking the system that we already have built with my local teachers and creating specific content to put on the app, and then bundling it out. And this is what will be, with people download the app, they open it up and all the options are there. So it's basically like you can do a $15 a month yoga on demand app. You can do a $35 a month live streaming that includes the app, or you can do a $50 a month membership at the studio that includes live streaming and the app. And hoping that if I am able to target all three customer types, which that was what came up through the pandemic, people were calling and saying, I can't get to your live stream classes because I'm busy at that time. Do you have any pre-recorded classes? So this was just taking a lot of conversation, feedback, and communication with my members and friends and other yoga studio owners. I have a personal community of about 100 yoga studio owners, because prior to Namaste Studios, I operated a yoga clothing company in New Jersey and New York. And so I use them all the time to help kind of figure out how to strategize to market globally, but maintain my local heart and my local business, so that if one of them goes astray, if something happens and we're not able to go forth, there's still the other ones that are to back it up, so that it can, and also without doing a million new things, being able to streamline it and streamline, the marketing and the system, so that you're not trying to like reinvent the wheel. I'm not sure, this kind of like a long way to explain it, but that's, I kind of have to take this global approach, in my opinion, based on how significantly the industry has changed. And I used to have 24 people in my yoga studio. I now can only have 9. So it's not feasible at all to only operate as an in-person studio and an in-person business. I had to absolutely find another way and find new customers and a new audience.
Hmm. Absolutely. So again, I'm very impressed with the three of you ladies, how you pivoted slightly. I wouldn't say you had a complete pivot where you're creating new product per se. We know of Bauer hockey equipment now makes face masks instead of hockey sticks. I mean, to me that's a drastic pivot. But you certainly have adjusted, and I know the message I'm taking away here very strongly from all three of you is your responsibility as a corporate citizen, to contribute to your community, and the safety and wellness, not just the mental space, but Jenny, you talked about, the physical safety and demonstrating safety and the responsibility of that. And I think that's such powerful, powerful messages. I'm going to wrap up with just sort of one more question, and then we can throw it open to the folks that are attending. And if there's, just before I jump into the last question, Allison, you've got your hand raised. Do you have a question or comment you want to throw in there?
Yes, just something actually I was going to mention it before with Jenny, but then actually both spoke about it. It's the importance of creating a community beyond your own business. And I think that a lot of businesses get through that cross promotion, small businesses helping small businesses, which is one of the reasons why we started up these coffee breaks, the entrepreneur ecosystem, trying to build that up. And I think, Jenny, you mentioned knowing when to market and when not to. I see you marketing other companies as much as your own, and I think that goes a long way. It comes around. What goes around comes around, and I'm sure, Nancy, that you would say the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I think the craft brewery is one that I just hold up as the shining pinnacle for me of partnership. Every one of you as a brewer is so willing to promote each other, knowing that your client is very unique. So, I have a particular brand of soda that I like, and I'm pretty loyal to that brand, and I'll begrudgingly take another brand if I have to. But craft beer drinkers, and Billy's on here, and he's one that can, had us down a bootleg one time and can tell you the benefit of the craft beer drinkers. They want to try them all, and you're capitalizing on that, and you're allowing each other to shine. And I have worked in other industries where I'm going to talk to you. You're my competitor. And I think in the wellness space that Nancy and Sharon both occupy, I mean, that's also such a strong message, because really that would go against who you are as individuals if you didn't collaborate and promote one another. So, I think it certainly ties into your values.
Carol?
But yeah.
Would you mind if I just mention one thing about what you're saying? It's not something that was local to Newfoundland, but during all of this, I had a yoga studio from Ottawa reach out to me based on some of my yoga teachers, because of the pandemic, were able to start guest teaching at other studios across North America. And so she had been speaking to one of my teachers, and she reached out to me, and she began this endeavor, which I thought was just the most amazing way to show solidarity and collaboration. And she has brought me in, and we're going to be doing this as well. That she partnered with 4 other yoga studios and said, let's all choose 2 classes from each of your schedules, put them on our own schedules, and set it up so that anyone from any of our 5 yoga studios can access those classes through their membership at your studio. And it was the most amazing thing, I thought. And I wish I had come up with it. I thought, that's something I should have come up with. But so I'm in the works of joining them, and then basically studios from all across Canada, 4 other studios from across Canada will have classes on my schedule that my students will be able to avail of, I specifically chose ones that none of my teachers are teaching, right? Like things that we wouldn't be able to teach under our umbrella. So I thought that was just a really beautiful way of, like what you're talking about with the craft beer industry. We all can find ways to do that within our own industries. And kudos to Down Dog Yoga in Ottawa.
Excellent. That's fantastic. I don't know why, but the first thing that jumps to my mind is we had a zoo membership in Toronto when we were living there with our children, and we had a reciprocal membership at an X number of zoos, and one of them was Buffalo. And this was back when you could cross the border a lot easier, and we'd make it a trip and we'd boot down to Buffalo and we'd check out the zoo, we'd go to Olive Garden and we'd shop and we'd come home. But because it was that reciprocal, right? I mean, otherwise I'd probably never ever would have gone to the Buffalo Zoo. And for any of you that are of a certain age, it's the exact zoo that Sylvester and Tweety Bird are in. It's that exact image. So if you've ever watched those as a kid, that's the Buffalo Zoo. Really accessible for children, as opposed to the Toronto Zoo, which is spread out of hundreds and hundreds of acres. But yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. So Sharon, I'm going to turn to you first. What would you say is a lesson you learned from this experience, and or what would you do differently if this was starting today?
Lessons that I've learned is never be afraid to learn something new. Look at something new as an opportunity. Anything that you're afraid, anything that fear brings up, look at it as an opportunity, because that's truly what it is. It's something that you're not used to, something that you haven't been exposed to. So how do you know if it's good or bad unless you entertain it? So I entered into live Zoom and Facebook Live with that premise. Other human beings are just like me, very forgiving. And some people will have the opposite view, but that's my story. I'm sticking to that one. That's my perception of the world. So what I see it's my reality. So I don't step outside and say who's going to judge me or if I screw this up. Like last week I went and did a live Facebook, or the week before, and as soon as I clicked the live button, I noticed, I said, very good, I'm live, and the Facebook platform has changed. So
Yep.
I feel this in my stomach. I'm saying, very good, I'm live, the world is watching me now, and I've got a choice to make. X out of this and run right to the bathroom, or roll with this. I'll be like a river and I'm just going to roll with this. And people are forgiving. They're looking at this whole, that's what I've learned more and more every day, that people are just like me, exactly like me. They want the best for themselves, and when they can feel well themselves, they can give that to everybody else. So no matter what your business, no matter what your marketing tool is, no matter what your goal is, if we can look at fear as an opportunity to move forward and just allow what is to be, might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. Let's wait and see. And the marketing thing for me, there's a change there. There's something great coming. I don't know what it is yet, but I always know when I'm moving through something, I feel like I'm a snake and I'm coming right out of that shell. There's something happening in me, and it's going to benefit not only me, it's going to benefit the world. And I can't wait. I'm excited. And it didn't start off like that. It started off like, oh my gosh, not this again. So yeah, if that's anything that I've learned,
Excellent.
fear is a great
Thank you.
opportunity. Yeah, you're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you. Jenny, what would you say you've learned, or what would you do different?
The thing is, I guess, for us is that I don't think I'm sure I learned a lot, but honestly, it's just been about like survival. So I guess I've just learned that you can make it through anything, which I guess is an important lesson.
Wow.
I guess I wouldn't change anything. I think we ended up figuring everything out really well. Would have been great if we got relief funding a lot sooner, but that's the only thing I would have changed, and that's not in my control.
Right.
So, yeah, I know that's probably a weird answer, but yeah, I think we killed it in a sense. I think we did really good considering everything that was happening.
Absolutely. And survival is not a bad thing. That's a great thing, right?
Ah, we made it. And usually that's what people come in. And that's another thing. I don't love humans. I'm going to be honest. But people will come in and they're like, oh, well, sure, you must have done really well, like from the pandemic. And I'm just kind of like, excuse me. No, what is wrong with you? But, oh, God, I don't even remember where that point was. Now I just sound like an asshole.
No, you don't. All good. You
Perfect.
survived and be proud of it. Absolutely.
Yes, that's where it
And
is. I tell
Jennifer,
people.
also Jennifer, know that you might not like humans, but humans like you.
Ah, that's nice. But yeah, usually when people ask like, oh, how's it going? Either they think we must do really well because we sell alcohol. And I'm like, no, it's a very like premium product. So anyway, but
Yeah,
I usually just tell people, we made it. I'm like, that's all I can ask. Like,
that's
we're
right.
still here.
Excellent. Allison, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, it's times of crisis that sort of highlight the future generation of problems that need to be solved. And I think one of the things that you can really see from this discussion is how everybody first stopped, stepped back, and looked at what those problems were before charging head first. And I think that, even Sharon, from the marketing question that you had, that's another point to pivot. It's another problem to solve. So you're going to step back, figure it out, and then it's going to lead into some new part of the business that'll probably be better than the one before.
And Allison, I'm going to need help. And I know that no man is an island. It's another.
That's
Thank
right.
you both.
Excellent. Last word to you, Nancy. What did you learn, or what would you do different, if anything?
I'm going to take a little different approach here. First of all, I learn and relearn lessons over and over and over. So even if I learn it, I'll probably have to relearn it in a year when things go off the rails and, oh, yes, right, I remember. But one of the biggest takeaways for me, or I guess two rolled into one, were that nothing else matters outside of your health, like as much as health. And there's a way through everything. You can figure it out. There's ways to figure it out. It might not be anywhere close to ideal. It might be extremely stressful, but I have, my husband and my daughter are American, and we moved here from New Jersey 4 years ago. And we moved intentionally from the rat race and insanity that is there for somewhat of a quieter, more connected family life. We can definitely get caught up with, oh my gosh, 6 months of winter. This is, seasonal affective disorder is real, and stress and like the isolation and the things that we miss from being in a place that is more accessible. And when this happened, it was actually a huge awakening for my husband, where he has always appreciated living here to an extent, to a degree, but he lived in New York City for 15 years, and he is in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and there's always been a part of him that hasn't been 100% on board with the idea of where we currently live. And when this happened, what it highlighted was how unbelievably lucky and safe we are. And I have that perspective. I've had it since day one. I have lots of very dear loved ones that have been in a much more dangerous position in the last 6 months than I have had to be. And every single day, even with things being stressful and fearful and unknown and crazy and feel like a lot, every single day, he and I and our daughter woke up with gratitude in our hearts for where we live, for being safe and protected, and being in what we felt to be one of the safest places we could possibly be for our health. And I believe that I will take that, continue to take that with me and in our family. And it has changed our family life, and it has changed our family dynamic to one of just gratitude. And not that we didn't have gratitude before, but it's on a whole other level. This gratitude of living where we live and being where we are, it's unending for me. And that gratitude got me through everything.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that very personal perspective. And I think you're right. I think so many of us have really started to realize what is valuable to us. And most, I think, would say, you know, family and health and safety and a lot of the messaging that you folks are saying. I know I'm a hugger. I'm desperate for hugs outside of my daughter and the cats. You know, it's just the cats are sick of me hugging them, but you know, it is what it is. I know there's someone on this call that I saw on the weekend. I said, I don't really care. I'm giving you a hug, and we both hugged at the fair, and you know, because well, we just had to. But you know, yeah, it really does shift you, right? When you have this whole paradigm shift. And I know for me personally, the surrealness of the fact that it was the entire world. It wasn't just a far off community, or it wasn't just a neighboring community or my own community. It was the entire world. And I think the magnitude of that was just unreal. You know, I think that piece was really, really, really eye opening.
Another key point too, Carol, if I may, the world, the COVID has been a great opportunity. The world and its inhabitants, we were complacent. We became complacent. We thought everything that we have is going to be the same. The top 3 industries in our world, we are at the only time in history, in humans' history, that we are able to feed everybody on this planet, which we're not. 35% of the planet are undernourished, 35% of the planet are overnourished. The top 3 industries in our world today, number 1 is arms, number 2 is pharmaceuticals, and number 3 is alcohol. Not food, not water. What we can't live without is food and water and air, and they're not our 3 main industries. So that'll give you an idea what COVID, and there's nothing wrong with arms, there's nothing wrong with pharmaceuticals, and there's nothing wrong with alcohol. That's not the point I was trying to make at all, Jennifer, because we need all of those things. But the number one, there's no good to have alcohol if we don't have fresh air or fresh water. You can't make alcohol without that. You need the water. So the things that's driving our world has to be what sustains our human race. Once we get that straight, COVID is teaching us this. These lessons are coming hard. They're coming, so it's an opportunity for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to end sort of the formal, informal discussion that we've had. So thank you, Sharon, Jennifer, and Nancy for sharing your perspectives and the different things that you've gone through. So I'm going to end our recording here now. Just give me a moment to do that.